Okay, guys, welcome back to the Grimerica show. We're going to be talking with Joshua Black, PhD, a little bit later about grief dreams. He's a grief dreams researcher.
He's going for his PhD.
Going
not
for
quite there yet.
Well, I'm pretty confident that Joshua is going to do just fine. So we're going to go ahead and call him a PhD today. And, of course, we got friend of the show, David W. Mathisen's back. We're going to roll out our first Skies Over Grimerica segment. There's going to be a little video to go along with this. So if you guys want to check that out, Graham will link to that in the show notes. Speaking of Graham, the one and only Graham Wonder Calves Dunlop. How's it going, buddy?
Yeah, good. How you doing?
You like the calf ones, eh?
Yeah.
There you go.
Lights me up.
I really should get the calf cam going again.
No, it wasn't good.
Got good feedback. So welcome back, Dave.
Hey, thanks. Great to be on with you guys.
Yeah. We're going to jump into some sky stuff later. I'm sure you got some juicy stuff for us.
Definitely. And what's the temperature outside up there?
I was just outside, actually, and I want to say it's probably around -5, so probably like 23 Fahrenheit, and snowing. There's about a half inch of snow on the ground. We're supposed to get 10 inches of snow in the next couple of days.
Okay, great.
So we're looking forward to that. It's supposed to be down to 0 and into the negative Fahrenheits, or for us, -20 or -17 or something like that by the end of the weekend.
Great. Well, it's great to be in the igloo.
That's right. The igloo is relatively warm in the winter for the most part. When it goes down to -40, it gets tough. But hopefully that won't happen this winter.
Yeah, hopefully it'll be like a mild winter.
Come on, global warming.
I can handle -5 to -5. Like the 5 degree to -5, it's okay.
It's -5 right now.
Yeah, that's okay.
Right on. It's about 55 degrees Fahrenheit here. It was a nice warm day in California. No snow.
No snow.
Right now.
Has it ever snowed there?
Yeah, it actually does snow where I live, but only once every few years. Where I live, it snows up in the Sierras and things. You know, Lake Tahoe. We get a lot of snow up there.
Cool.
That's what gives all the water for Southern California is the snowpack from the Sierras in Northern California.
Right.
Thought there was no water.
Don't let me sidetrack your intro.
So how you been, buddy?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Yeah, good. Yeah, I mean, we can talk about, also talk about, like, we're going to do, did we talk about how we're going to do Skies Over Grimerica? Is that what it is? And then, and then the CSETI,
oh, you want to get into that?
I could, we don't have to do it right now.
Oh, that's good. We could, yeah.
No. Okay, there we go. We had the new moon, dark sky. Okay, that's enough. I planned camping. No, I'm serious. Crystal clear. So I had to read that meditation, did the singing bowl, and that shit starts happening. Okay, that's good. We started seeing flash bulbs. Streakers coming down. Oh, okay, that's good. Graham Dunlop is the He-Said star.
All right, let's hear it.
So we went to, we had a potluck dinner, and we had little chit chat beforehand, and then we split up into 2 groups this time. So this is in. So David, we're doing our normal CSETI thing here.
Was this after the mushroom trip?
Yes, I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
That's a great jingle. I love that jingle.
No. It's
you should let that one play all the way through.
No, it still makes me flush.
It makes Graham a little self-conscious.
So we split up into 2 groups. One group went to Nose Hill, and then me and 2 other guys went further west. And it was super windy night, but it was crystal clear, beautiful skies. Like, I mean, you could see the Milky Way. It was gorgeous. And right when we got there and we were starting to set up, we saw this light. It wasn't a plane. It was a light. It did this little.
What?
See, just the way you're looking at me already.
No. It's good.
And I'm trying to remember it now. And it did a couple weird flashes, and then it turned and it went north, and it had a couple more flashes, and it was almost like what they call those power up things, right? And me and the one guy, only 2 of us saw it out of the 3, and we were laughing, and we're like, oh, look at that, like, it's crazy how it happened so soon. And then we said, if that's all that happens tonight, That's fine. Like, that was enough. Like, it was worth the trip out there to see that one thing. And then we shouldn't have said it because that was about it.
That was it?
Yeah. We saw some shooting stars and one big streaker, and there was no satellites even. Like, no satellites, nothing. Like, it was quiet out there. There was a lot of there was some planes going across. Like, we were sort of
What time was it?
What time? 9:30, 9:45 or so.
Oh, yeah, I should still have satellites.
So, yeah, it was weird. Like, why some nights that are crystal clear, you're not seeing any satellites? We did see a few flash bulbs. We saw a few little flash bulbs. Let me just read the report here, too.
Yeah, you guys did a report?
Sort of, yeah.
You guys have, like, official stationery?
No.
No?
No.
You just scribble in a notepad, or do you have, like, a journal?
Maybe we saw there. Well, I'm just trying to. So we saw a few. Yeah, we saw a few solitary flash bulbs. Yeah, that was about it. So, yeah. Oh, the northern lights. So I did this meditation in the middle of it. It was the fucking craziest northern lights over the trees, like just like you see in the postcards. So then we got a report from Celia, who were with the Nose Hill group, and she says,
"Where were you?" I thought you were in Nose
We were
Hill.
out west. We went out west.
Secret location?
Yeah.
Same secret location?
No, different secret location. And I don't like this one as much. I like the other one. There's more activity.
Probably
So
the other one's under a flight path.
So she emailed. She says she got a ringing in the ear at 9:30. A message and then streaker after ringing stops, and it says, "You're all doing really good. Relax." Well, that's interesting. I forgot about that. Then at 9:45, flashbulb, super bright, shiny white light, sparkling ones, slow start, then flashing very often at first irregularly, then regularly, and often then back to irregularly. Over 50, too many to count. So that's around the same time that we saw ours from the west, about an hour and a half drive west.
What?
And then they saw the northern lights as well, and they saw a couple other slow streakers and some flash bulbs.
That's probably about the same time I seen mine too, when I seen that one that disappeared.
Yeah. And then she said her son saw his first UFO. So she says, and from her journal, I told Eric we would go into the hot tub in the forest and build a fire and go stargazing, and maybe we would see a shooting star. He said, I will make a wish. Someone told me your wish comes true if you make a wish when you see one. The hot tub was out of commission, but we played foosball and lit a fire. We bundled up, and Eric and I looked at the Big Dipper and the Milky Way with a laser pointer. He said it was like a lightsaber going forever into space. I saw a falling star and told him. He said he wished Kenzie was with us. That's his girlfriend. He said he had never seen a falling star before, but was hoping he might see one. I told him we were also looking for UFOs and that they looked like camera flashes. He said, hello, aliens, to the sky, and I saw a flashbulb. I told him to look in the spot where I was, and we saw about 5 more. We were so excited and squealing and laughing and shouting in the dark. He asked if this what it was that I did, and I said yes. He said he didn't know it was so much fun. We said thank you and looked more at the constellations. When he was cold and we got ready, I said goodbye to the sky, and he looked up and waved and said bye. Immediately, one more big flashbulb. He missed it, but as soon as I pointed out where it was, a falling star went by just for him, his first falling star.
Falling? So not shooting? You know, falling would kind of describe what I see. Because I thought it was a satellite that just came out of the sunshine. Went around to the dark side of the earth. But
Yeah.
it kind of looked like that, because it did kind of do like that doo-doo as it kind of trickled away in the sunset.
And then he said, I wish Kenzie was here. He wished and went inside. So anyways, I thought it was appropriate for David's, skies over Grimerica to share like a starlit night experience that we had.
Absolutely.
That was really cool. That was a really cool experience. I bet you he'll remember that when he's, our age too.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, when you're out past the city lights, the stars and the constellations, I mean, it's just incredible. It really is worth the trip.
I was looking at the Calgary map. Is Nose Hill actually a good place Nose Hill Park? Is that a good place to look at stars?
It's a huge. If you have to stay in the city, it's the good place. If you're staying in the city, but if you want to try and get out of the city, but that's a huge park in the middle of the city, like a massive park.
You gotta get a good. Like I went out probably like 40 minutes.
Yeah, you
got
gotta
city limits, and you can still see a bit of it on the horizon.
Yeah,
you gotta go a good hour.
From where we saw light pollution from Calgary, an hour and a half away, or now an hour away, we saw light pollution. Yeah.
Yeah, but you
Sons
guys
of
have
bitches.
good mountains right to the west of you, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you can find some total darkness pretty quick if you need to.
Yeah.
I've been
Nice.
meaning to. I went out last time I went out, it was the moon. Now it's gonna be fucking cold.
Yeah.
Through the sunroof, I guess.
Yeah. Now you can bundle up. I've done it in -degree weather. You just gotta just dress for it, layer up, put some hot shots in your gloves.
So,
anyways, we kind of ruined it. Our consciousness ruined it because we said if this is all we saw, that would be enough, and then maybe that had something to do with it. I don't know. Very weird.
maybe.
So what's
you
what's
guys
in the
lost your coherence.
Yeah, exactly. What's in the skies over Grimerica, David?
Yeah, so, I think that going out and looking at the stars is just a great hobby if you're able to do it. And obviously, if you're in the middle of a big city or something, you may need to get out and get away. But right now, we've got some fantastic. There's always great stars out there. So if you can go out every night about the same time, you really start to become familiar. But what I wanted to talk, and maybe we won't get through all this. This is the first skies over Grimerica, but I've got up there a little kind of itinerary. We can talk first about the moon. So I think Darren just mentioned, when the moon's up, it does kind of drown out, and we're heading right into the full moon right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're recording this on November 1st, so we'll have a full moon on November 3rd. But I wanted to bring you guys over to show you my stellarium. So, you can find out about what's going on in the skies from lots of different places. I'm going to tell you a little bit about how this relates to the myths. Are you seeing the screen with the constellations on it? Great.
Yep.
So this is actually the present time. So this is Stellarium. That's a free app that people can download, and it will track along with you for the time that it gets off of your computer. So it'll show like real time what's going on. So you can see the moon. I've enlarge the moon a little bit so that you can see it. But that's going to really dominate the sky as it gets towards full. But what happens is it rises later and later each night. And when it's opposite to the sun, that's when it's full. So it really is getting close to right about at the middle of the sky at midnight. Here I'm forwarding up to midnight. You can see we're almost at a full moon. It's almost due south for us in the northern hemisphere. But what's going to happen is I'm advancing the days. As this is November 1st, November 2nd. So you see what's happening is the moon is rising a little bit later. So now I'm 24 hours later, pretty much the same stars. They've moved a little bit, but the moon isn't as far. And then here, this is full moon. Full moon happens on November 3rd for us in California. It's already November 4th in Greenwich, England. So full moon will be at like 10 p.m. Exactly the point of full will be 10 p.m. But really it's a nuisance for stargazing. So the moon kind of drowns out. But it does help you if you know what constellation it's near. Like right now, tonight, the moon is very close to the Great Square of Pegasus. This is the Great Square. Can you see my pointer okay?
Yep.
Yeah, you bet.
Yeah, so the moon, if you go out and if it's not snowing, it sounds like it's snowing. So
you ain't seeing much out there right now here. But I mean, this would apply for what people would be seeing, I guess, in most of northern hemisphere, like USA and Canada. This would apply to.
Right. So this will apply actually all over the world. So even in the southern hemisphere, you can see the stars that we're looking at. I put these grid lines in because this actually shows the celestial sphere. So if I take away the ground, I'm showing this for where I am on the map. If I were to, I didn't want that. Let me get all those labels off. If I take away the ground real quick.
The only thing left on there is Uranus.
There's Orion.
Yep. So there's Orion rising up. So he's starting to rise. But I just took away the ground. You can see all the way down to the southern.
That'd be the South Pole, right?
So people in the southern hemisphere can see that. But basically that's like the floor. If we're orbiting, if you imagine us orbiting the sun in your living room and going around a round table, the stars on the ceiling are going to be at the north celestial pole. The stars on the floor are going to be on the south celestial pole. So on the Earth, the people on the southern half of that ball are going to be able to see the south celestial pole, but we won't. We have the ground in the way. The Earth is in the way, but we can see the north. But that's what's on the floor and the ceiling. So the people on the ball can only see the floor if they're on the lower or southern half of the ball. But everyone can see what's on the walls. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yep.
So they can see this
So
band
kind of
here.
everything between like 40 and 40 is
Right,
everyone
and-
sees.
Right, but they're going to see it upside down on the southern half of the sphere. And so when I went to New Zealand, I was looking at Orion, and Orion was upside down. Because
Wait,
I
so
was
you
on the
saying the Earth is round?
That's
Are you
exactly
fear
right.
mongering us?
So we can talk about that for an hour. But all of this explanation that I'm going to give you assumes a spherical Earth. So I just turned off half of your viewers, I'm sure. But I'm not sure that anyone truly believes in a flat Earth. I don't believe in a flat Earth. I don't even believe in flat Earth believers. I think they're faking. Most of them. Now I'm really turning on.
Some of us are shape agnostic. It's okay.
Yeah, okay. So you know what? You can go out and enjoy the stars even if it is a flat Earth.
Exactly.
Okay.
But for some reason, you can see them all the way down to the horizon.
Yeah. So, well, here's the thing. As we go further and further north, like if I were to dial this in for Calgary right now, what would happen is this
We'd lose
horizon,
some of that.
That's right. This horizon here would be higher up. It would be covering some of these stars. And that's because basically the North Pole, I've turned a little bit towards the north. It's maybe a little, I'm staying cognizant of time, so I'm not going to get into a full-blown explanation. But basically what happens is the North Pole, as you go further and further towards our North Pole on the Earth, this North Pole gets further and further towards the top, towards 90 degrees. Imagine yourself lying right at the North Pole as we're spinning.
Yeah.
The North Celestial Pole, the North Star would be directly over your head at 90 degrees up.
It would
And then
never move.
the whole sky would spin.
Except
They
for the
all
North
start-
Star?
Right. See, the whole sky would be spinning. I'm spinning it around right now. So the whole sky, because the Earth is spinning, the sky's not really spinning. It's like you're lying in the middle of a record player, and if you're at the North Pole, your head is right at that little, you know what a record player is, Darren?
Yep.
I know Graham does. I'm just pulling your chain.
Wicca.
So are we still in? This is a Calgary view still, like where we're.
No,
This would be
I'm down
extreme
in
north.
California.
Oh, that's
I'm
California.
down in California. But look, I'm pointing to.
So you're looking at Calgary from California.
What?
I'm looking up. We're not going to get through any
Well, this
constellations.
is
at
north,
this
right?
rate.
North.
I'm turning around. I can see the North Star from where I am. You can see the North Star from where you are, but it's lower in the sky for me than it is for you guys. So this whole sphere, as I go further north, look, I'm facing back to the south now. If I were to turn around and start trudging to the north until I get to Canada, what's going to happen is I'm going to be walking towards the northern part of the sphere that we're on. So actually the top of this celestial sphere is going to come closer. I'm not explaining it very well. Let me actually move us to Calgary on this map, and you'll see what I'm talking about.
Sure. Yeah.
It should open up the north a bit, and then we'll lose some on the south.
That's what's going to happen. So now I'm going to click on somewhere near Calgary. Nope, I didn't even get far enough north.
Yeah, that's
I'm in Idaho.
pretty close. Yeah.
There we go, Calgary. So now I'm going to take us to Calgary. So I'm going to go there. So
Too bad Chester.
I don't want to get too bogged down in actually the mechanics of the sphere. I want to show people what I'm saying is that. So now now I'm in Calgary. There we are.
Yeah.
So now, basically, the horizon is higher. So this constellation, this is Sagittarius. It's lower at this particular time and date. Oh my goodness, I went all the way back to June. So I was messing around with spinning the Earth. I went all the way up to 2022. Sorry. Okay, here we are. So here we are on tomorrow's
over
date.
future Grimerica.
Yeah. So here's
We can
the
do that
skies
too.
over
We
tomorrow.
could pick days. We could pick days
right.
in the future.
So this is Aquarius right here. There's the moon.
Orion.
So, but basically this horizon, this southern horizon, is higher up in Calgary than it is for me. So I can see further south than you, and this north celestial pole is higher above your head because I've moved up the sphere. So now if I go back to Paso, if I go back to where I am in Paso de Robles, California, if I go back to my default location where I am, I want to go home. Take me home. What does Dorothy say? There's no place like home. So I'm trying to get back there. Maybe middle of the ocean. Anyway, now I came back towards the south. See how much higher these constellations are? This same day. But now
that little bird you couldn't even see before.
Right. So those are underneath the southern. See, the curve of the Earth is blocking those out for you guys. But I'm going to try and talk about constellations that people can see pretty much from all over the globe.
Sure.
But I know we've got a hard stop. So, but you see what happens is as we go further north, it's like the bulge of the Earth for you guys is blocking out for the stars that are further south. As you're looking, we're all looking towards the stars on the wall. But as you go further up towards the top of the ball that's in the middle of the room, if you try and look further south for stars that are lower on the wall, the curve of that ball gets in your way.
Yeah.
Got it? So that's stuff that anyone can tell you. What I want to tell you is that all these constellations, I think it makes it much more meaningful to go out and look at them when you realize that all the myths, all the mythology of the whole world is based on these stars. And I can show you a few myths that are based on the stars that we can see at this particular time of year. So that's what I wanted to do tonight. And what you need to know, though, the reason I started with the moon is that as we move forward through the month, now I'm moving forward, the moon is going to rise later and later. So full moon really blocks out the stars. But after full moon, it really starts rising later and later, and it starts to wane. It starts to get thinner. So here at 11 p.m., the moon is only just coming up when we get to the 7th. And as we continue, the moon is going to rise later and later. It's like it's being overtaken by the sun until basically it rises just a little bit before the sun, meaning like at 5 a.m. or 4 a.m. So you can watch the stars
all night. So that'll be closer to I guess that'll be closer to the 11th or the 12th?
Yeah, so new moon is when the sun and the moon rise together. And that's what we saw, Darren, when we went and saw the eclipse. The new moon was blocking out the sun.
That's right. Yep.
So the moon and the sun rise together, but because they're on a different orbital plane, the moon only blocks out the sun when the moon happens to be orbiting on the exact same, passing through the same plane that we see the sun on. Because the moon's orbiting at it's like a tilted plate. If we're in our living room again and the moon's going around that Earth, it's like you have a plate that's slightly tilted. So the moon's orbit doesn't always block out the sun. Otherwise, we'd have a total solar eclipse every month.
That'd be cool if we had one every day.
Yeah.
Boom. So actually just one a month. Yeah, I guess that'd be right.
So we'll have a new moon. So new moon is a really beautiful phenomenon. So I just wanted to talk about that real quick before we get to the constellations. But every month, even though it's not a total solar eclipse, you get a new moon. And our new moon this month will be on November 18th. And I love new moon, and I love the day after new moon. So it'll be at 11:42 Universal UTC or Greenwich time at on the 18th. It'll be at 11:42. That's the exact point of new moon. But basically, the moon on new moon has got its illuminated side towards the sun and its dark side towards us. That's why when we were looking at that solar eclipse, the moon was black. It was this black disk that moved in front of the sun because the dark side was towards us. So you can't even see the moon on new moon. You can see it when the very first illuminating edge of it starts to rise, and I'll show you what happens. So let's go real quick to like 4 a.m. on the 17th. So here's the moon. So maybe you can see a little tiny sliver. See that little tiny sliver?
Yeah, right before the sun rises.
Right before the sun rises. This is the east. The sun's going to rise, but we're at 4:26. So this is like the opposite of what's going to happen after the sun is overtaking the moon. The sun is going to pass the moon because the moon's rising later and later. So on the 14th, now the moon is rising very close to the sun, and there's only a very thin sliver. The planet Mars is up before the sun. And then what will happen is as we get closer and closer, it's going to get basically thinner and thinner until you don't see it at all. And then you won't see it again. So after the 18th, you see it rising you see the moon after the sun goes down. And so they used to watch for this. The ancient priests of Egypt, they would watch for when they could see that first sliver. Now the sun has passed up the moon. Are you tracking with me?
Yep.
So now you won't see the moon until the sun goes down, or you might see that very thin sliver. Whoops, let me get us back. So on the 18th, you won't see anything. It's a new moon. But on the 19th, you might be able to see that very thin sliver right after the sun goes down. Or on the 20th, you might catch, now you can see this very first illuminated edge of the disk because it's the sun that's illuminating it. I don't think any of this works too well with a flat Earth, but I'll leave that alone. So
basically,
anyway,
it's like from the 15th to the 20th, they're your like prime star watching nights this month.
Prime, and even when the moon is very new, when it's just this very thin sliver like this, it's going to go down very close to the sunset. So the sun will set, and then you'll see this beautiful thin crescent, and then the moon will set. That's still good viewing hours. But then as it gets later and later, or as we go further through the month, now the moon is going to start getting fuller and fuller again. Okay? So your prime viewing time is like after the full moon, wait a couple of days. Now the moon's going to be rising later and later and getting smaller and smaller. You've got good viewing all the way until the new moon, and then even several days after the new moon.
Yeah.
And then it starts going towards. So anyway, I just wanted to get that out of the way. Let me erase.
So then we can call that in the future episodes, we can call that like the sweet spot, and we can just kind of identify that as being like December 12th to 23rd or whatever, whatever you think that the best days will be for the month.
Right. So I wanted to get that. I wanted to start off with the moon, but now I'm just going to take the moon and not even show the moon and get those out of there. I've got a little delay. But let's talk a few constellations that you can see. I know we're coming up on, what do we have, about 6 minutes left, 7 minutes left?
10.
10, yeah.
Okay, great. So Graham at the beginning of the intro was talking about when he was seeing the Milky Way, when he was out being the Sea-Ceti star, right? So you can see the Milky Way still, but it's starting to rotate towards the west. So let me show you. Oh, I also want to talk about real quick a little bit of meteor shower real quick, because we are approaching the trail of a comet that gives us the Leo meteor shower. I just want to show that real quick, and then we'll go into a few constellations. Whoops. Let me stop sharing this screen. share where we are in the actual heavens.
I was
Take a
looking
look
at
at
the
this.
Big Dipper yesterday. That one's a bear, though. We read a new myth that said
That
it's
is.
a bear. I like that one better. And then there's the two guys the kids chasing the bear.
Yeah, so, and you can search for all these constellations on my blog, and I've talked about different like Bible stories that relate to that one. But it's around the world. It's shows up as a bear in different myths. But here's where we are. This is actually a pretty cool little website called inthesky.org. So this is Earth. This is the trail of a comet that we're going to be coming up on November the 18th.
Right on new moon.
Yeah, so it'll be a good time for seeing shooting stars. So these shooting stars are often the remnants of the tail of a comet or the passage of a comet. So I just want to show you real quick this other this app called it's online. It's called inthesky.org. And let me see here. Here, this is a pretty neat little app. Can you see? This is our orbit around the sun. Here's where Earth is in November. And the cool thing about this app is it's got a little up top here. We can move the Earth along, and you'll see where the different planets are.
Cool.
So as we're moving along, so here's where we'll be during the month of November. So as we're spinning, you'll see, this is why you see Mars before sunrise, because we're spinning, looking from the top down, we're spinning in a counterclockwise fashion. If we're looking from north down, we're spinning in a counterclockwise fashion. So as we come around, you'll see Mars just before we keep spinning around and uncover the sun. So
yeah, we see that in the morning now.
Yeah, that's right. So you see Mars a little bit in the morning. So this is the only really good planet right now is at night is Saturn. But see, nighttime is when we're facing out this way. See, this is us on Earth. When we're facing away from the sun is when we can see all these stars. But right now, all the visible planets are pretty much on this side. So you can't even see Uranus or Uranus or Uranus. You can't even see that with the naked eye. So
that's what I was going to ask you about. Actually, is how did they know so long ago that that's where it was?
Well,
we can't get into that.
Okay, that'd be a little bit of a sidetrack.
Okay,
right
well, we'll wait.
I want to give you guys a few myths, but anyway, that's a really cool app where you can see the planets moving. But what I was on that screen was showing you was that as we get along in November, we're coming up to the tail of that comet. That's going to give us a meteor shower called the Leonid meteor shower in the early morning hours, pre-dawn on the 18th. But you can read about all that stuff. There's all kinds of great resources on the web to read about what you can see in the sky. What I can tell you about is how it relates to actually these sacred stories from all these different cultures. So that's what I want to really focus in on. And in the interest of time, I'll just pick a couple because I know you guys have a hard stop for your marathon of interviews. So very quickly, this Milky Way here, this is the Milky Way. You can see these two beautiful birds in the Milky Way of Aquila the eagle and Cygnus the swan. If I were to zoom in just a little bit, oops, I zoomed out. Here we go. Zoomed in too far. Sorry, guys. Those are sinking further towards the west. What happens is as we move through our orbit each night, we're moving around that dining room. So the stars on the wall, we're going to leave some stars behind as we go around. So these stars are moving towards the west, but you can still see these two great birds flying towards one another within the Milky Way. They're very large. So Cygnus the swan is pretty easy to identify with this kind of very bright triangle here, and it's flying towards Aquila the eagle. And there's a lot of great myths that use these two birds. They show up in myths around the world. A lot of times they're associated with the making of fire, and that's because they're positioned right inside the Milky Way galaxy, which looks like it shows up in myths in a lot of different ways. It can show up as a river, but it can also show up as smoke or a fire, and you can see why that is.
Yeah, it looks like a fire down on the horizon for sure.
This is the galactic center. This is the galactic core. So this is the brightest part of the Milky Way, and it's right between Sagittarius and Scorpio. But now, after the sun goes down, Scorpio's already pretty much below the horizon, unless you're maybe down at the equator or something. But what I wanted to show you is, so those are starting to, this is very prominent in the summer, and they're in a lot of very cool myths. But I want to give you some myths that relate to what you can see in the night sky during the month of November. So what we have coming up, this great square of Pegasus, very important. And we talked about it a little bit last time, the Pleiades and Perseus. So that's what I really wanted to just, I didn't know how long we would have, but we've got a few more minutes. So I want to tell you a little bit about the story of Perseus. He shows up in a lot of myths, but this is the figure of Perseus, and his foot is pointing towards the Pleiades. So right now, I've got us facing towards the south. He's rising up in the east. So the reason why this horizon is curved is because it's simulating, if you were to look to the left while you're standing, it's almost like you're in a shoebox and the walls are wrapping around you. So Perseus, if I were to turn us towards the east, you can see that Perseus is actually rising, and so is Orion, in a more horizontal position. You see that?
Yep.
What they do is they rise horizontal, and as they go across the sky, they become vertical
and then they lie back down.
And they sink back down. So the reason that stellarium shows you, if I'm facing to the south, the horizon curving up on the east, is to show that those guys are actually lying down. The horizon doesn't curve up to the east if you're standing outside. If you turn to the left, those things, you have to imagine that ground is flat. Those things are going to be lying more like this. So you're going to see Orion rising up, this massive figure rising up with his bow and his three belt stars coming up right around, by 9 p.m., he's already clear of the horizon. Where are we? I think we're back in California. So he may rise a little bit later where you are. But Perseus is already up. Can you see Perseus here?
Yep.
Now notice he's got this curving hand. Yeah, a little like he's like Captain Hook. He's got one hand that's like a hook. He's also got one foot. You see how that is twisted?
Yep.
The foot looks like it's twisted. There are myths where there is a character whose foot gets twisted. And a lot of times that is a clue that you might want to check out a correspondence to Perseus. So let me switch over my screen. I know we're
okay. We're okay. Yeah, we're getting there. We're okay for a bit.
Good. Let me show you some ancient Greek pottery that shows the figure of Perseus, to show that these outlines were understood in ancient times. So let me go to this PowerPoint slide that I prepared for you guys. Here's a vase or vase. This is a piece of ancient Greek pottery. Now this is Perseus. Do you guys know who Perseus encounters in his challenge?
Medusa?
Exactly. Good job, Graham. You remembered from last time.
No, we didn't talk about it last time, no?
I think we did.
I'm just kidding. No, good job, Graham. Don't steal his moment. So that is Perseus holding the vase curves right here, but that is the head of Medusa. I put a green arrow pointing towards her. You see that?
Yeah. And then
that's
he's
the
got
head
the
of
hook
Medusa.
in the foot.
Okay. Well, yeah, his foot, but let me call your attention to the shape of his sword. You see the sword that he used to cut off Medusa's head?
Yep. Looks like a sai almost.
Yeah, like a scythe or it's got a special name in Greek, so a Greek scholar could tell you that. But you see that curve? You remember the shape of the outline of Perseus? Like he had that hook?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The stars. Now you have to have a bright, a dark night. You have to get away from the light pollution to see it, but you can see those stars of that hook. Here's another ancient Greek pottery. He's wearing a winged helmet because Hermes, the god Hermes, loaned him this helmet to help him in the fight against Medusa. But you see that this curved sword is very distinctively drawn there?
Yep, that's the hook again.
Right. Now he slays Medusa. I want to show you. This is an ancient Greek or Etruscan, maybe. I don't remember which one it is. Outline of Medusa, but she is often depicted with a very deep knee bend. She's got almost like a beard. You know that Medusa has this rim of snakes, but she's winged. She's got wings. She's got this fringe of snakes all the way around, almost like a beard. Here's another one of her. Often she has her tongue out, very deep knee bend, okay, and wings.
That's the same shape. I drew it. It looks the same.
Yeah, well, no, this isn't Perseus, though. So this is actually a different constellation, Hercules.
No, I mean the two Medusa pictures look the same.
Oh, yeah, right on. Here's another one. Here is Medusa chasing Perseus. Or this is one of Medusa's sisters. There's 3 Gorgon sisters. After Perseus cuts off the head of Medusa, the other 2 give chase, and he has to get away. But he has Hermes' cap of invisibility, and he has winged sandals in order for him to be able to fly away. But this outline of Medusa, this outline matches up with the constellation Hercules. This is the constellation Hercules. And you might say, well, wait a minute, where is he in the sky? You can't see him very easily this time of year, but this is important for the myth, because now I'm going to go back to Stellarium. We'll probably have to finish on this one, but maybe we can do another. We can do another one in 14 days if you want.
Yeah,
New Moon. Yeah. I can do a few more, but let's go back to share the screen, because this is really quite interesting. I believe. I believe it's fascinating. I believe all these. This is ancient wisdom. I mean, we don't have time to get into it. I was going to tell you guys. I'm reading right now. This is Joseph Farrell, Babylon's Banksters.
Yeah.
I'm going to blog about this. This is not just about banking and finance and dry stuff. This is about how actually there's hyperdimensional things going on with physics. These myths are talking about hyperdimensional truths. The ancients knew these hyperdimensional truths. What do the Gorgons do when they look at you, or if you look at them?
They turn you to stone.
They turn you to stone. They bring you into the material world, out of another dimension.
Wow.
Okay? So these myths, I'm talking about them in a casual way just because I don't want going out to look at the stars to be intimidating. There's so many, so much astrology or astronomical terms that are in Greek or Latin, and they're intimidating. Where's Alpha Centauri or, Beta Oriensis? And people who aren't familiar with the stars might feel uncomfortable. So I want to talk about them in a way to where these constellations become your friends and you become comfortable with them. But when we're talking about the myths that are based on these stars, they're talking about amazing, hyperdimensional, infinite realm. They're using the stars to talk about the infinite realm. So let me talk quickly about Medusa, why it is that this constellation that's so far away from Perseus plays the Gorgons that he slays. Okay, here's Perseus. He's pretty high in the sky. I'm going to move out just a little bit. Okay, I moved out too much. I'm using this screen that moves quite a bit with I've got a touchpad here, but it's a newer version of Stellarium where I can make the lines nice and bright for you so you can see them. So I've got to zoom out just a tiny bit more. Just a tiny bit more. So here is Perseus's foot. Here is the Pleiades. They're right above the V-shaped Hyades, which is in Taurus the bull, which is above Orion. So let me see if I can zoom out just a little bit more. And I'm going to make Perseus head down towards the horizon. I'm going to see if I can show this to you because it's very cool. If I can just get my zoom to stop being hyperactive. All right. So now it's at 3 p.m. You can't see any stars at 3 p.m. because the sun is still up.
Yep.
But look at Hercules. This is the Gorgon. This is Medusa. Okay, I've written about this in my book, Star Myths of the World, Volume 2, which is all about the Greek myths. I talk about the evidence that Hercules plays Medusa. Now, Hercules now, at this time of year, is starting to sink down into the west. You can barely see him. By the time the sun goes down, here we are at 7 p.m. Now the sun has gone down, okay? I've blotted out the sun so we can see the stars all the time. But if you were outside, you wouldn't be able to see the stars until the sun went down. So when the sun goes down, look at where Hercules is. Mm-hmm. He's almost going down. But Perseus is rising. So there's a few myths that do this, and it's really cool that they do this. They'll have a figure who slays another figure. The one who's rising is the one who slays, and the one who is sinking down is the one who's banished or driven out. So this happens with a lot of myths. So actually, this happens with the Adam and Eve story. Okay? So let me go back. Here's Adam and Eve. When they are driven out of the garden, I have a video about this, but when they're driven out of the garden, the Almighty puts an angel at the east of Eden with a flaming sword that turns every which way to keep them from going back to the garden with the tree of knowledge. That angel with the flaming sword is Perseus. This is his sword turning in all directions. You see how it's turning in all directions? So in the Greek myths, when he slays the Gorgon, it's a hook. In the Bible, when he's placed at the east of Eden, after Adam and Eve have been driven out in the west, it's a sword that turns in all directions. In the Medusa story, Medusa lines up with Hercules. You can still barely see Hercules, because I know how to find him. He's hard to spot when he's sinking down in the west. It's like he's upside down, because remember, this ground is actually flat, so his head is starting to be downward. So you have to almost be looking for an upside down Hercules. But he is sinking in the west as Perseus, the one who slays the Gorgon, is rising in the east. So we probably have to leave it there, but there's lots of myths. But this great square is also a cool one that people can go out and see. It's in between. It's actually
and the fallen.
Yeah, that's right. And actually, I've got some myths for you with Aquarius right here. But the best way to find, this is Andromeda that Perseus rescues. He rescues her from a giant sea creature, by the way. There's Cetius the whale. There's this big whale. He's very hard to spot, so that's a hard one to spot. But this square is pretty easy to spot. So from Perseus, you can find Andromeda. She's chained to a rock. Here's the chains on her wrists. She's in between Perseus and the Great Square. And the best way to learn about these constellations is really to go out every night, but you've got to use the outlines of H.A. Rey. I've written about that. I've talked about it. And these are the outlines of H.A. Rey. But that myth of Perseus, it includes Andromeda, it includes her parents, it includes the sea monster. But I think the most important part is he slays the Gorgon. The Gorgon is what petrifies us or brings us into. These myths are all about actually our cycle of coming down from another dimension into this realm where we're in this physical body, but we actually still have contact with those other dimensions. So when you have, you guys have had some spine chilling. It wasn't even a synchronicity where the guy heard the voice, right?
Yep.
What is that? Is it your higher self? It's a message from, something that our ordinary physics can't explain, right? Yeah. All these things, the ancients knew about multidimensional reality. And in fact, as Joseph Farrell talks about, our physics is, there are people who, with their physics, are realizing in the most cutting edge physics, hey, there's hyperdimensional reality. So we come down from this other realm into this realm, but we have to get back in touch with the spiritual realm as well. So we don't want to just be trapped in a body. We don't want to just be seeing people as their physical body. We don't want to judge people based on their physical characteristics. We want to realize that every single person you're talking to has this infinite component. They're connected to this infinite realm. They're an infinite being. So you should treat them with, dignity, because you realize that about yourself. And so that's what I think this whole story is getting towards. It's talking about all these kinds of things that, hey, get back in touch with. Don't just reduce yourself and others to kind of, these animal nature, because you do have an animal nature, but you also have contact with the infinite realm. And that's what when we're looking at the stars, we're looking at the infinite realm, and all these myths are about the infinite realm.
Well, I think we could probably see Hercules from here.
Yeah, it's cool to see. It's cool to see what we would like, to show us this, to see what we would do, so we can kind of keep an eye out for the ones that
we
are.
We could definitely
visible.
see Perseus in the square.
Yeah.
Well,
That's great, Dave. Yeah,
we should jump into it. Support the show, guys. Check out Grimerica.ca/support. Sign up for a monthly. Do a one-time donation. We prefer monthly, but we'll sell for one-time for donation. We understand if you can't do financial, there's a bunch of other ways to support the show, whether it's review it or share it or spamgram.
Send some stories and
sign people up for the newsletter. Get some swag over at Grimerica.ca/swag, and all that fun stuff.
Do it.
That's right. And the other thing you got to do is enjoy this chat
with Joshua Black.
Talking about dreams.
Yeah.
The dream realm.
Grief dreams.
Thanks a lot, guys, for inviting me on.
Thanks for coming, David. We'll do this again.
Okay. Ciao, Dave. Yeah, sorry to run, but we got to jump on right away.
Night, guys. See ya.
Thanks for joining.